Okay, let's take a look at indirect object pronouns. We've looked at direct object pronouns, but now let's look at indirect object pronouns. So indirect object pronouns is when we want to get rid of the indirect object, and it's usually a person, but it doesn't have to be. We want to get rid of the person, and we want to say to him, to her, or to them, for him, for her, for them. Okay, they're the indirect object pronouns. So I bought Mary a gift. Mary is the indirect object. I want to get rid of her now and put in the pronoun, which replaces a noun. So I want to say I gave her a gift. Okay, her in that case is the indirect object pronoun. And again, you can look through these. They're very simple concepts. So let's look at the indirect object pronouns in Spanish. Here they are. Here's the subject pronoun, and here is the corresponding indirect object pronoun. So for I, it would be to or for me. In English would be me. In Spanish, it's me. What about if you're using the informal you that you would use with friends or family? To you, for you is te. What about to her or for him? I'm sorry, to or for him is le. To her, for her is le. And if you're using usted, it would be le. To you, for you. Okay, us is nos. Them, for ellos, them is les. And for you all, it's les. Notice that the indirect object pronouns and the direct object pronouns are very similar, except for the la and usted, it's le, not lo or la. And then for ellos and ustedes, it's les, not los or las. Other than that, they are exactly the same. Just spend a little time, take a look at that. Now, how do we use indirect object pronouns? Okay, we want to get rid of the indirect object, which is usually a person, and sub in usually a le or a les. All right, so let's take a look. El agente dio la tarjeta de embarque a él. So what are we saying? That we're saying that the agent gave the boarding pass to him. Él. All right. Now, instead of saying to him, let's get the pronoun, the indirect object pronoun. It'll be le. So, and let's substitute it back in. El agente le dio la tarjeta de embarque. The agent gave him the boarding pass. That's how we would say it. Now, an important thing here is where do we place the indirect object pronoun? Again, when you only have one verb, and we're going to be using with for this course just one verb in the sentence. When there's only one verb in the sentence, we always put the indirect object pronoun right before the conjugated verb. In English, it goes after. In Spanish, it goes before. Just get comfortable with that, okay? So here's some verbs that frequently require the use of indirect object pronouns. Okay, you should be familiar with these. Decir, to say, dar, to give, explicar, to explain, ofrecer, to offer, pedir, to request something from somebody. Prestar, it should be prestar. That T is incorrect there. Prestar means to lend, prometer, to promise, recomendar, regalar, etc. Let's take a look. How would we say I lent her my suitcase? It would be yo le presté mi maleta. Okay, so le is the indirect object that means to or for her, or it could be him. In this case, it's her, and it goes before the le goes right before the conjugated verb. These are very easy to use. Okay, what do you recommend to me? Okay, here we can have indirect objects in questions. What do you recommend me? ¿Qué me recomiendas? Again, just make sure you put the me before the conjugated verb. The customs agent asked us for our passports. And again, there's a small typo here. El agente de aduana, the custom agent, nos pidió los pasaportes. what is from us. It's nos. It's the, we just saw it a few slides earlier. You've got to get comfortable with the indirect object pronouns. Nos pidió los pasaportes. Just make sure you put the nos before the conjugated verb. The agent told me his name. El agente me dijo su nombre. Okay. What did they give you for your birthday? Here's a question. ¿Qué te, and I'm using the informal you, ¿qué te regalaron para tu cumpleaños? Here's another one. They gave me a shirt and tie. Now, remember in Spanish, you don't always have to use the subject pronoun. You can tell from the verb, but they gave me. Regalar is to give something to somebody for free. So, ellos me regalaron una camisa. Or I could simply have said, me regalaron una camisa. I can tell from the ARON ending, it's the ellos ending. Okay. The waiter explained them the menu. Okay, so in other words, the waiter explained the menu to them or explained them the menu. El mesero les explicó el menú. So remember, with indirect object pronouns, you're going to be seeing le or les instead of lo and la. To them, les. To you all, les. To him is le. To her is le. To usted is le. All right. This is a small point, but it's very different in English and Spanish. In Spanish, they are very redundant. They generally, if there is a person who is an indirect object, like I gave Mary the dress, I gave Bob the ball, when I have a person involved and I'm giving them something or doing something for them, in Spanish, we are redundant. So I would say, I gave to her the dress to Mary. I gave to him the ball to Bob. All right. In English, I would just say, I gave ball to Bob. I would not have to say, I gave him the ball to Bob. I gave her the dress to Mary. But in Spanish, you are redundant. And so you would say, I gave her the dress to Mary, I gave him the ball to Bob. And so what appears as redundant in English is not in Spanish. So let's here's an example. I gave Mary the passport. This is the way I would say it. I would never say I gave her or I gave to her the passport to Mary. Okay, this is very redundant, but in Spanish, you are redundant with your indirect object pronouns. Let's take a look. Yo le di el pasaporte a Mary. That's how you would say it. You wouldn't say yo di el pasaporte a Mary. You could say it. It would be understood, but generally in Spanish, it's required that you include the indirect object pronoun for proper Spanish. It's redundant to us. Okay. They offered Mary the menu. Ellos le ofrecieron el menú a Mary. Okay. He recommended the hotel to Bob and Mary. And now we're going to use a les because it's to them. Recomendó el hotel a Bob y Mary. Okay. Not él recomendó el hotel a Bob and Mary. Again, it's kind of a minor point, but I think you should be aware of it. Okay. Okay, and then here's just some more uses of a little more information on the use of the indirect object. You can read through this, but let's take a look. He lent his parents the money. Él les prestó el dinero a sus padres. Again, we would, in this case, we mention the indirect object sus padres, and we also have to use the indirect object pronoun. That would be considered in English to be redundant. He lent them the money to his parents. You would not say it that way in English, and that's the idea. Okay, let's take a look here. Here's just a random question. ¿A quién le compras el boleto? You should all be able to understand that. ¿Quién, who, whom, to whom, or for whom are you buying the ticket? Are you buying? Compras. Okay, okay. And it would be ¿a quién le compras el boleto? Not ¿a quién compras el billete? You, for whom or to whom, you've got to have the indirect object pronoun. And you have it, the indirect object referred to twice here, ¿quién and le. All right, let's do a few practice problems here. So you're going to get the elements for making a sentence, okay? And I'm trying to give you an idea of what I want you to say with these building blocks for a sentence. So we want to be able to say, Mary buys Anna a dress, or Mary buys a dress for Anna. Okay, so now Anna will be the indirect object. So we want to rewrite this sentence here. And okay, so Mary compra un vestido, Ana. So how are we going to do it? Well, let's see. Mary le compra un vestido a Ana. So we have to have the indirect object pronoun to her because we're buying it, or for her. It's Anna, so we have le. The indirect object pronoun always comes immediately before the conjugated verb. So Mary le compra un vestido, and then we tack on a Ana. All right, the next one. Bill prometer hacer las maletas yo. So what's going on here? We want to say Bill promises to what? To pack my bags or make my bags. Okay, he promises to pack my bags. Okay, so he promises me to pack my bags. So Bill me promete hacer las maletas. And you could tack on a mí, but it's not necessary. Look at 3. Pablo prestar dinero a sus amigos. Pablo lends money to his friends. Now we've got to them. A sus amigos is the indirect object. So we're going to use what is the indirect object pronoun? Les. So Pablo les presta dinero a sus amigos. Okay. The next one. Ellos decir los precios, and I'm sorry, that's a misspelling. It should be Precios. So they tell the prices, precios, to us. Well, what is the indirect object pronoun to us? Nos. So ellos nos dicen los precios. And finally, el agente de viajes ofrecer los boletos ellos. So we want to say what? The travel agent offers the tickets to them. A ellos, to them. What is to them? Les. So el agente de viajes les ofrece los boletos. And that does it for indirect object pronouns.